Alright, YouTube. Welcome to number 11 of everything you need to know about raising tarantulas. In one of my earlier episodes, I showed you guys what it would be like when you send the bihomori molting. This time I decided, since this is a smaller tarantula, this is one of our female Brachypelma albopilosums. This specific one is Allison, after Allison Cuthbert, a wonderful, loving, caring, awesome person, friend and fan and YouTube family of mine. I want to let y'all witness this process, because when you buy a tarantula and you see it acting in this manner, you might think that, oh my God, something's wrong with my tarantula. What should I do? It's dying. It's acting like it can't breathe, or it's fallen and it can't get up. That's not the case. They flip over on their back. They build up all this fluid in their system. Maybe you've heard me talk about how pre-molt, they won't take food, and you don't leave a food item in here, because this is the molting process and you do not want to disturb them while they're doing this. What is happening right now is the fluid builds up to help release the outer shell, because tarantulas have an exoskeleton and it's made out of cuticle. The hairs that you see on a tarantula is called seta, which I do believe, don't quote me on this, but I do believe is also made out of cuticle, if I'm not mistaken. And it's cuticle just like your fingernails that's on the top of your fingernails, same material. What is happening though in this process, and why it's so detrimental to its health, this is the most vulnerable you will ever see a tarantula. The older a tarantula gets, the more durable and tough it is as a spider, but the more damaging it is to the tarantula if you mess with it in this state. Because what is happening is the lungs, liver, heart, mouth parts, legs, entire body is being discarded for the new one that's underneath. So when you see a tarantula in pre-molt, what is happening is, the best way to explain it to you guys is, it's like this outer shell becomes like a tank body to the tarantula, and inside they concentrating on growing new book lungs, which is the 4 dots that you see on all 4 sides of the abdomen, and new heart, liver, all that kind of stuff. And once they completely go through that process, they then release that fluid, which is like a hydraulics fluid, to help them push this off of them. You can kind of see a little bit at the joint, just a little bit of fluid, and you might not always see it excrete out through the skin. It just depends. And you'll notice that there's a web mat underneath this tarantula. The web mat is an ant guard. They do this with their food sometimes. Ants will not cross that web. It's a certain formula that they use to make an ant webbing. You'll notice sometimes when you're keeping tarantulas also is several different types of webbing. It's because they have the capability of making several different types of webbing using different chemical compounds that I don't fully understand myself, but is absolutely extraordinarily awesome and badass. The only way to put it. So this tarantula is going to push this entire body off. If the video will allow me to capture all this before it's the end, then the tarantula is going to start moving and convulsing, and what's happening is it's pumping the fluid, the hydraulic type fluid, the tarantula blood, into all of its new limbs. Right now they're small because they're tightly compressed into that body wait a minute, the legs are tightly compressed into the legs that you're seeing moving right now on the inside, and all the fluid is in the carapace and the abdomen, and they'll move and move and move and pump it back down to regrow. That's why tarantula becomes bigger every time they shed. I'm trying to get you guys as much information as I can think of right now. All my videos are raw, unedited, and just on a whim, really. So I got to think about unscripted as well. I got to think about all the things that are happening as they're happening. I do get to witness this all the time, and I would just sit here and stare and stare and stare until the process is done. Most of the time listening to awesome music because it's just my thing. But this is a female tarantula, one of my favorites. One of my favorites. I love a Brachyopelma albopilosum.
Well, hold on.
Especially ones named Allison.
That's Allison?
Yeah, Allison Cuthbert. I was telling earlier that this was named after a YouTube fan and family, and a YouTube friend that become YouTube family and fan and everything else. And she's also a moderator on my yeah, she's a moderator of Badass Reptiles and Inverts Facebook page. Don't piss her off, you might get kicked.
Leave her alone.
I'm just joking. She is a sweetheart. And so is this lovely little tarantula. I hope you guys enjoy what you're seeing here. And then after this is done, don't try this at home, kids. I'm just using this as a pointer because I don't have a other pointer. This is a nice pick. After this is done, right here you'll see is where the tarantula sexual organs are. Right there. If you flip this over, they shed everything. When I say they shed everything but their brain is the only thing they have left, and they're keeping that for memory. That's another reason that a bug has a way of living 30, 40, 50, in some cases 80 years.
So
yes, a tarantula can live up to 80 years. Something like the Grammostola pulchra.
Here's the question for you.
It's a very information about this, because this is what this video is about.
If a tarantula loses its leg,
can
it grow it back?
Yes, it can.
And how long?
But that don't mean go break your tarantula's legs off, because when you break a tarantula's leg off, if it starts bleeding and the bleeding don't stop, it will leak all of its fluid out and it will die. But if a leg was to break off, or they break it off purposely because they get stuck in something, it might seal back up, and then they would regrow another leg. Better to be smaller, and then the next time they molt, it'll be a little bit bigger, and then the next time they molt, you'll never even know that they had a leg broken in the first place. Absolutely amazing. I did see one case where a tarantula, I don't know exactly what happened to it, but the tarantula had a hole in its abdomen that was super glued back together, and all legs broken off and one fang broken off. Both pedipalps broken off. It was just a carapace and an abdomen with a hole in it and one fang, and it was completely nursed back to health, and it looked crazy. On the first molt that it had, it regenerated very, very, very small legs all the way around. The second molt, a little bit bigger legs, and recovered a secondary fang, which was also small. And then it molted again, and the legs were starting to get a little bit better where it could move around on its own, and it could start killing food on its own. And then by the 5th or 6th molt, it was like a brand new tarantula again. But that took a lot of human intervention to keep that thing going until it was a strong tarantula again. And that was not on no video, that was a friend of mine. And look at them fangs. You'll notice also, I want to tell you guys, the fangs, you see the fangs? They're white. The fangs are white because they're extremely soft. When you have a tarantula molt like this, I would not go to feed them as a small sling for at least 3 days at least. When they're this size, which is about well, bigger than 2.5 inches, about 3 inches. When they're bigger than 3 inches, you want to wait 5 days or a week. It's not going to hurt your tarantula to go without food for up to 2 months, probably. It won't hurt your tarantula until you notice the abdomen starting to shrink, so they can go long periods without food. So it's worth it to not risk your tarantula's life by trying to feed it too soon. Another thing,
and if they feed it too soon, what will happen?
It'll break the fangs off, or the feeder item will kill it and eat it. Another thing, you don't want feeder items in your tarantula enclosure, because if you have a roach or a cricket in here, a roach and a cricket is an opportunistic eater. They will eat on anything they can get their mouth on, and they will eat your tarantula, whether you like it or you don't. It's not if or maybe they'll eat it. They will eat it. They will devour it, swallow it whole like an egg roll. I had a mature male pumpkin patch recently that there was a rusty red roach in the container with him that I was unaware of. Somehow I needed to pay better attention. Even expert keepers like myself make mistakes sometimes, and that was a very costly mistake. The roach came out of hiding when the tarantula was molting. The roach was hungry because there was no food in the container for the roach, and it had a chance to smell and see this tarantula that was helpless in the state that this one's in, you're looking at right now, and started eating its fangs, and then worked its way around to the head, and by the time I got to it, it was just a big hole with no brain or no nothing. It was completely unsalvageable, unsavable, due to me not knowing that there was a roach in there, being in a hurry, dropping a roach in a container, and just thinking that the spider would eat it. That's not a good thing to do. If you have 1 or 2 or 5 or 10 tarantulas, and you tongue feed each one of them, or you drop it in there and make sure they get it at a time, that's good. I think that day I was feeding about 400 or 500 tarantulas, and I was just going from container to container to container. And even though after I feed all of my tarantulas, I always check them the next day and the following day, I remove mollusk and everything else, which is a ball of food, bolus. But somehow there was a rose, a plastic fake rose in there, or nylon, whatever they're made out of, that roach climbed in there and waited for its key opportunity to be a ninja and assassinate the tarantula that would have ate him. So it truly is an eat everything world we live in, people. Extremely hostile environment. Everywhere you look, everything is prey. So keep that in mind. A little cricket or a little roach can be 10 times more badass than a tea sturmy if it has the right tools, or the right opportunity, I should say. Like this tarantula was molting. Even if a tea sturmy was molting and a cricket got on top of it, it would kill it dead. Which is a Goliath bird eater, one of the biggest tarantulas on the planet. T. blondie being the biggest living that we know of. Same genus family. T. sturmy, T. blondie, Tarantulas, I believe.
So everything's fresh?
Huh?
Everything's fresh?
Everything's fresh. This is going to be a long video, but y'all, I'm only moving this so you can get a better view. Don't try to disturb your tarantulas at all during this process. It can kill them. I'm doing this only for educational purposes. Not that you might not be able to do it. You might fully be able to do it, but if you do, and you screw up, your tarantula dies. not a chance I'm willing to take, but I know, or at least think I know, the limitations and how much I can manipulate something without having fatal consequences. Look at those fangs. Those fangs look so dangerous and deadly, but they are so soft you could just barely touch them and break them off, and they'll just bend. They're softer than a limp spaghetti noodle, and it's almost completely out of its shell, outer shell. This is the process, friends. It takes a while. It's funny also, tarantulas, for some reason, they remind me a lot about cats. The way they hunt their prey, they kind of ambush them, kind of like a cat would. They have little claws on the ends of all their feet that look just like a cat claw. It's unbelievable. But no genetic connection at all. Unbelievable. Most tarantulas have been unchanged for 450 million years, which is pretty interesting as well. This girl is a girl that I've been in the process of power feeding to grow her up faster. Something new I learned about power feeding just recently, because I'm always researching and learning new things. When you power feed a tarantula, you can grow them fast if the temperature, conditions, and everything is proper. But if you're power feeding a tarantula every day or two, you cause an increase in metabolism in that tarantula. And that increase in the metabolism will make that tarantula where it eventually metabolizes so fast that when you go to breed that tarantula and it has an egg sac, it'll eat the egg sac just about every time. And the reason for that is it just metabolizes so fast. So only power feed your tarantulas if you plan on not breeding it, or you plan on pulling the egg sac. Like I do myself, I pull my egg sacs and I grow tarantulas really fast. It don't hurt them. In the wild, they're going to try their hardest to eat as much as they can, as fast as they can, because they start out as such a tiny little thing where they are prey for anything. So in their mind, they have to eat very fast to get big fast in a big dangerous world, so they have half of a chance of making it. In the wild, tarantulas might have 1,000 eggs and only 10 of those eggs survive. In captivity, you can have 1,000 eggs and save 900 to 1,000 eggs if all conditions are met properly, which is very brilliant if one day people decide to quit destroying everything that we have, and we have people like me and some of you guys that are out there watching. We can recover lost ecosystems. You gotta think of us all like a silent ark, protecting all the greatest creatures that's ever roamed this earth. 450 million years of this animal being on earth. Only a couple 100,000 of humans being here, and we've almost eradicated almost every species on earth. There used to be 10, 20, 50, or 100,000 times the amount of animals that are on earth now, just because human intervention destroying it all. That's one of my main goals and focuses, and why I make the videos that I make and try to get y'all as good as quality content as I possibly can, because maybe, just maybe, if you had a fear of spiders, or you had a fear of snakes, or other things, anything, all life is important, and maybe seeing this, getting interested in it, it'll strike something up in your creative mind and in your deep loving heart that you didn't know that existed. and we'll be able to work together to save what little of our planet we have left. I don't think this girl is going to come out of this shell, so I'm going to have to continue this because I do want you to enjoy the entire process. So what I am going to do is stop this video here and continue part 11. So you'll have part 11, or everything you need to know about tarantulas, part 11, and the rest of everything you need to know about tarantulas, part 11. Kind of like number 5, how it turned out. It's just, I only have 4 minutes and 20 seconds left on here. This is going to take forever to upload this video, and I want you guys to see the entire process. So the next one won't be as long, and everything will be added to the playlist. Don't forget to just click on the playlist sometime and watch it through for tips and tricks and pointers from an expert. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned.